to the 9/11 War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com.
Welcome to the 9/11 War Room. My name is Gene.
My name is Sandra. Today's Sunday, November 23rd, and we have episode 210.
Here we go. News stories. Got a couple mainstream. First one from CNN. A disgusting display. 9/11 family member reacts to Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Oval Office visit. And that's Brett Eagleson with 9/11 Justice. What's the Prince bin Salman doing in the Oval Office? And Jon Stewart was equally chapped about it. And here's just a small clip of him venting.
Donald Trump hosted it. This was the whole thing. Do you remember the Mamdani? All these right-wing guys are like, how dare he take a picture with an imam? Has he forgotten the lessons in 9/11? One guy came after me. Has Jon Stewart, he's talking pleasantly with Mamdani. This is a guy, has he forgotten 9/11? Don't you ever ask me about that. And second of all, your guy hosted a live golf tournament in the shadow of the towers with the Saudis and palled around with them.
Yep. So Jon Stewart's equally not happy. I made a 3-minute clip that just how profound it was. I just want to play it. I think it was pretty good. This is a news correspondent, I think ABC, had asked a question. And here we go.
And you may recognize the song in the background.
Yeah. It's basically the whole song that I use. It's Jeff Beck's Pull It from an album, Louder Than Hail. And we'll just let it play.
Your Royal Highness, 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you?
You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
It was just you asked, Mr. President,
Please,
if you allow me to answer. I feel painful about, the families of 9/11 in America. But, we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden, he used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. Focus on reality. Focus on reality.
So I was really caught by that phrase he used, focus on reality. So if you'll just let me play the next 2 minutes here, I made a video collage of focusing on reality.
Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. Focus on reality. focus on
Yep.
reality.
Focus on reality. How about focusing on that reality, bin Salman? That was just offensive that he said that, in my opinion. So yeah. Jon Stewart reacted to it again, as we said. Brett Eagleson and a lot of other victims' family members.
Roy wanted to weigh in on that.
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I'd never heard any complaints from the 9/11 families or the mainstream media about when Netanyahu was visiting the White House, when it would seem to be at least equally appropriate. That's all.
Yep, good point. Thank you.
Man, where'd the music come from?
So that music was Jeff Beck's Loud Hailer album. There's 3 songs on there, 3 or 4. Let me just show you that real quick.
Yeah, it seems to be a whole album that was dedicated to 9/11.
Wow.
Because some of the songs, you would recognize the names or the words that are
Louder,
not
loud. I'm sorry, louder than hail.
Loud Hailer, sorry.
Loud hail.
And that's what the cover looks like. And if you look at some of these songs, like it's not explicitly written about 9/11, but let me read you a couple titles here. One, Pull It.
the song we just heard.
2, Edna. Some of you may remember Edna Cintron. The Ballad of the Jersey Wives. Like, it's kind of like, okay, at least 3 of those songs are definitely looking like he was some type of commemoration to 9/11. So he passed away. Fantastic guitarist. I had actually written to Angus Young Angus Young. I always do that. Angus Young from AC/DC. He answered me in a tweet message, and I said, "Hey, you worked with Jeff Beck in this?" And he said, "Yeah, fantastic album, good guitarist." So yeah, thank you, Jeff Beck, for that. And it's also the music that we use for the intro for the War Room.
Right.
Pull It.
Very, very powerful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next news story. Whoops, I might have skipped myself. Yes, I did. This is from the Daily News. We covered this a couple weeks ago. It's a rehash, but they say some things in this. I want to do a little reading. New York City long claimed it had no info on the 9/11 toxins at Ground Zero. Now they have 68 boxes worth. Interesting. It says here, after claiming for years that they couldn't find any documents about what City Hall knew about the danger of the 9/11 toxins swirling around Ground Zero, the City Department of Environmental Protection has now discovered 68 boxes worth of information that could be pivotal in learning more about what first responders and survivors were exposed to, the Daily News has learned. The materials ironically included the directive from City Law Department written 2 decades ago ordering the agency to save and preserve any information about the terror attacks and its aftermath that could be used in future litigation, said Andrew Carboy, an attorney representing 9/11 Health Watch, a responder and survivor advocacy group. We're witnessing pure alchemy creating documents from absolutely nothing. It's a fantastic feat, pure magic, he said sarcastically. Carboy has been trying to get his hands on the 9/11 documents only to be repeatedly told that the city didn't have any to share. The fact that the DEP had nearly 70 boxes of information and were ordered to preserve the documents 2 decades ago directly contradicts what the city has been claiming for so long, Carboy said. The city of New York at some point went wildly off the tracks in a way that is contrary to law, due process, and the norms of professional conduct, said Carboy. They took part in a systematic and coordinated effort to keep this information from us. How dare they do this? Hold our beer, says the 9/11 Truth Movement. It goes on, just one last thing. The Uniformed Firefighters Association, this is the firefighters union, the union that represents I just repeated myself, was beyond outraged to learn that after decades of claiming no records existed, the city of New York and DEP were actually sitting on 68 boxes of documents about the poisons we were breathing on 9/11, Union President Andrew Ansborough said. So we should reach out to Andrew Ansborough.
Didn't you have something more down there? If you scroll.
Nope, that was about, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
last, thank you. More than 140,000 responders and survivors are enrolled in the U.S. Center for Disease Control's WTC Health Program, which provides healthcare benefits for medical conditions related to exposure to the toxins that hung over Ground Zero. Out of that number, about 81,000 have certified condition linked to the toxins that hung above Ground Zero. This is striking here. The unearthed documents won't likely cause a flurry of lawsuits since the first responders and survivors who are receiving help from the WTC Health Program and the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund have already signed waivers agreeing not to sue over their illnesses. More than 100,000 have signed these waivers, officials said. That's upsetting. You signed that you can't sue.
Why would you
Yeah.
ask somebody to sign something?
Don't sign something yet. And if you remember, Beverly Eckert didn't sign that.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Beverly Eckert. Next news story. This is look at who the author is. Anybody recognize this name? James Meigs. Oh boy, he's back. Tucker Carlson goes full truther. Could you expect anything less of a title from James Meigs? For those that don't know,
I was going to say
James Meigs is one of the top 3. That was, now I'm forgetting. Somebody help me.
Popular Mechanics.
Yeah, definitely Popular Mechanics, but he was in conjunction with 2 other writers that just weren't very nice. I can't think right now.
Michael Shermer?
No, not Mike Shermer. He was Bill Bradley, maybe. And anyways, so he wrote this long hit piece on Tucker Carlson, criticizing him about the 9/11 files and whatnot. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. We had just found it because we're moving into our new home, but I will get to it. And I will share it in the show notes for everyone else to diagnose and respond to James, because I do have his email address.
Once a level-headed critic of 9/11 conspiracy theories.
But he is Popular Mechanics.
Yes, he was the one that wrote the 9/11 myths. And he repeated in the first 3 pages, like in his preface, he wrote the word or phrase conspiracy theorist like 57 times. It was just ridiculous.
They've really given us no shortage of targets,
right?
In terms of the folks that have stood for the official bullshit. National Geographic, it goes on and on.
Yep. So that's in talking about the 9/11 files at Tucker Carlson. If you haven't seen them, go to tuckercarlson.com/the9/11 files. I'm still upset that since that release of the 9/11 files by Tucker Carlson, if you go to New Commission now, it's still Cloudflare still has it down. So what I did is I created a redirect. If anybody wants to sign the petition, if you just go to 911warroom.com/Tucker, it'll take you right to that. So I found a way to get to it. So just remember 911warroom.com/Tucker, and it'll get you to where you can sign the petition for a new 9/11 commission. Yeah. Next news story. And Ted,
big one.
It's a big one. Ted joined us. Title says Breakthrough. UK Supreme Court to hear Matt Campbell's case challenging the AG's refusal to allow a new 9/11 inquest. So this is extremely exciting information after all the long, arduous, and torturous path that Matt has gone through with his family and Ted. And
the financial handicap also. I mean, there's so much money had to be raised. And if this wasn't going to happen, then they would have had to raise another whole bunch. So that's, I'm sure, a big relief to him.
So Ted, if you'd like to give us a little rundown on that, please.
Sure. Well, I think Matt gave a talk at the conference in September in Washington, D.C., where he kind of laid out where, the last 4 or 5 years of the case. And at that point, he had just filed with the Supreme Court. He had just received, well, like a month or so before that, he received a leapfrog certificate from the High Court, which is like the trial level court that he went through in the summer, which basically allowed him to appeal straight to the Supreme Court rather than to have to go through the Court of Appeal. Because basically the precedent that the court ruled they were bound by in July, essentially the Court of Appeal would have been bound by that same precedent. So he got the leapfrog certificate and he filed that, and I think he served the Attorney General with the filing of that appeal on the 11th. And And so basically the wait started to see when the Supreme Court would respond. And this was basically like the soonest that they could have responded. They were going to, based on how long it usually takes them to respond it's anywhere from like 2 months to, 5 months. So it could have been as late as February or so. So we're really fortunate that they responded about as quickly as they could, and because the High Court essentially said, by giving the leapfrog certificate, the High Court was essentially saying there's a need for the Supreme Court to look at this. We felt like there was a good chance that that the Supreme Court would accept the case, and although you never know, and if they had like turned it down, that basically would have been the end of the road. There would be really no more recourse other than just starting over, say filing a new petition or like back with the Attorney General. So the whole thing would be done. And so basically, one thing that's important to the most important thing to realize here at this stage, what is actually being litigated, it's not as if Matt wins at this stage, it's not as if he wins and the new inquest will be opened. It is actually one like specific question of law that they're litigating, which is, can the Attorney General's decision to refuse the application, the original application, can that decision even be reviewed by the courts? Or is the Attorney General's decision completely immune from judicial review, which would essentially mean the Attorney General has absolute discretion and is above the law. And so in the UK, with these types of decisions, these types of decisions are made by many different public officials in many different domains. And in all cases, except for the Attorney General, that public official has to like sort of follow the letter of the law. There's the legal sort of there's usually some sort of legal framework or criteria for how the official needs to determine or essentially render a legal decision on application or on whatever the subject matter may be. But the law, like the Attorney General is arguing that they alone are not required to follow any sort of framework. And the framework that they're in theory supposed to follow is they're supposed to be acting as a gatekeeper to the court and saying, would the court find this application meets the threshold or the criteria for the new inquest to be open? So they're essentially like projecting, what would the Supreme Court say if this was before or not the Supreme Court, what would the court say if this was before the Supreme Court or before the courts? Would they grant this new inquest? And really, there's not, I mean, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of a stupid gatekeeping function, because really people like Matt and his family should just be able to go straight to the court and let the court decide if the evidence that his family has, or if the lack of investigation that was done back in 2013 at the first inquest is enough to, warrant a new inquest. Just go straight to the court. But for some reason, and it's not uncommon in British law, like the Attorney General or other public officials can like serve as a gatekeeper, and they first decide, and they either grant the family the ability to apply to the court for the new inquest, or they turn them down. And so that's what, if the Attorney General's decision is subject to judicial review, that is what the courts would be reviewing, is, did the Attorney General make this decision like in a way that we would make it, like based on the legal criteria for, or did they not? Did they fail to apply the law to the facts of this case? And so we're at the point now where like the reason that it's gone to the Supreme Court is actually like the courts in the UK need to work out this very important question as to whether the Attorney General is above the law. And Matt's case is sort of like this, test case. And so if Matt wins at this stage, he will then the courts will be saying, the Supreme Court will be setting new precedent, saying the Attorney General is not completely above the law. Their decisions are subject to judicial review. And then Matt will go back to the High Court and will then litigate whether the decision itself is lawful. But there's a good chance that if he wins at this stage, the Attorney General will just back down, actually, and withdraw the decision and not continue to litigate. So there's a real possibility of that.
All right, hang on one sec. It's 5:20. I got questions too. Okay. 5:20, when Building 7 fell, we used it as an opportunity to just say a quick prayer for justice for 9/11. So if you guys would mind, take a moment with me. Lord, come to you right now. I thank you so much again for everyone that participates in this effort to get justice for 9/11. I pray that Matt's case goes well, is heard, and we get favorable opinion. I pray for all of our efforts in all these avenues and trying to progress and getting justice, that you would just guide us and protect us. Thank you for this new home and new place for the 9/11 War Room and those that are joining us right now. Thank you for these things in your name. Amen. Thank you. So this kind of reminds me about when we brought the lawyers committee brought the 60 exhibits for the controlled demolition of 1, 2, and 7, and it went the whole way up to the Supreme Court. And in that Supreme Court instance, they weren't deciding on whether the 60 exhibits for controlled demolition 1, 2, and 7 were valid. It was whether the victims' family members and those else in the court case, like Richard and the lawyers committee, had standing. So it's not exactly the same thing, but Matt's not presenting his evidence for World Trade Center 1's controlled demolition. He's just trying to get his standing, or to say that the attorney general can't be a gatekeeper, to be able to proceed with the meat of the subject. Is that a good basic?
It's more an indictment of the attorney general than any, like, it's more of a legal thing than it is a specific 9/11 thing right now, right?
Yes, that's correct. It is more of a legal thing. It is like an issue, a matter of law that will, end up, setting precedent one way or the other, so that other families in this situation who want to reopen the inquest, whether or not the attorney general, when they review their applications, will be subject to judicial review. And if the family disagrees or finds believes that the attorney general's decision was unlawful. And so it would be setting a really bad precedent for the Supreme Court to decide that the attorney general is not subject to judicial review. It would essentially mean that the attorney general can do whatever they want when they receive these applications. And but it is just that they're not looking at the evidence. That would sort of come now at the next stage if Matt wins at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
But even on that, I will say, I mean, if we get to that point, the standard of law, the threshold to get the new inquest is simply sort of like, is there even a remote possibility, right? Like, if you just take the evidence at face value without even really evaluating it, just take it at face value, suppose that what the family is saying is correct, like, could that possibly change the outcome of the inquest? And if there's even the slightest possibility, then there's supposed to be a new inquest. So that's why the application should have been, granted really quickly, 4 years ago, is because the attorney general was not really supposed to say, well, we think this evidence is BS, or we think the evidence is not strong enough. It's like, we've got 2,000 pages of evidence. We've got experts who, and eyewitnesses who believe this was a controlled demolition. That like, based on the letter of law, it should have happened. So pretty confident that if it comes to that Matt and his family will prevail. And like, I would say that we think there's a better than 50% chance that they will prevail in the Supreme Court, because we don't think the Supreme Court wants to set a precedent that puts the attorney general above the law. And if it were just Matt and his family, limited to their situation because they're questioning the official account of 9/11, maybe the courts would go against them. But because this decision will essentially touch every single family ever in a situation like this, there's a good chance that the court won't rule against them, and that they will win.
And I mean, this has never happened before. There's never been a situation where, attorney generals made a decision and someone said, well, hey, whoa, this should be subject to review. This is the precedent.
There have been a handful of, it's really complicated, like the case law, and there are the case that supposedly set the precedent happened back in 1978, and there have been cases since then where it's kind of come up, but what the court basically said in those handful of cases was, even if it were, they've kind of did the test without deciding whether or not it should be reviewable. They kind of said, even if it were reviewable, we think this case would fail anyway. So it's not, we don't even have to decide whether it's reviewable because the case itself doesn't have enough merit. So what they're implicitly saying now, like, is not only do we need to resolve this legal issue, but the case actually has enough merit that we can't throw it out. We can't throw it out just on, saying like you don't have a strong, like if this were reviewable, you don't have a strong enough case. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go to Carl. You have a question?
Yes, Ted, this is all in the UK court system. When you say Supreme Court, you're speaking of the UK, not the US, right?
Yeah, the UK Supreme Court. Mm-hmm.
Are you a bar accredited attorney? Are you trained to render credible opinion on what the UK courts are doing?
No, I'm not trained as a lawyer in the British legal system. I'm going based off of what Matt's attorneys, his barrister, and Queen's Counsel are advising. So
okay,
I myself am a policy analyst, so I do understand how law works in different situations.
Let me real quick. Let me just say for Carl, I don't know how he missed this, but we're talking about the case, the article, breakthrough, UK Supreme Court to hear Matt Campbell's case. If you followed who Matt Campbell is, Jeff Campbell, he's from the UK. Ted's been working for years with Matt Campbell and the barrister Nick Stanich. Lots and lots of filings, and just he's very intimately aware of what's going on in this case. So
right, just the casual listeners on this Zoom call might not be aware. Saying Supreme Court means the British. I'm not. Presumably, they use the term Supreme Court to describe their highest court, but we're not talking about the U.S. courts at all.
Yep, that's what it says. UK Supreme Court.
It was not ambiguous.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I should have prefaced that by saying what my role in this is, but I'm sort of more of a policy guy, but I know enough about the law that I can make good sense of like what Matt's attorneys are advising and be able to explain that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Ted. Anybody else any questions for Ted in the case over there?
We'll see what happens.
Aye.
We'll see. And I will say that I just want to add that I think we, view this as a very promising opportunity to generate a lot of publicity, for the cause. And, we're going to be looking to get Matt on, the biggest podcasts out there and get some serious journalists to cover what's going on with the case.
Yeah. And just a quick question. Basically, what's the next step right now?
Yeah. So Matt has to file something like a notice of intent to proceed in the next couple of weeks. And you said something about fundraising or how much funding they would need, and like, oh, it's a relief. They don't need. No, they need a lot of funds.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, but in the first, just to file the notice of intent to proceed is something like £8,500, which is like around $11,000. And so we're raising that now.
Yeah, but I think the bigger amount is the one that comes after that, right?
The bigger amount comes after that, but not that long from now. Though the attorney, they have to file their grounds within like 2 months, which is for how much work needs to be done. Like, and it's a short time frame to raise the money, and we'll be like launching the fundraising drive soon, and Matt has had a couple donors that have really helped him out tremendously over the past couple of years, and so that. But those guys they've done a lot, and they don't have unlimited resources. So, I don't know. We're hoping to kind of hit the jackpot in that Matt might be able to get on some, something like Tucker or Candace or both, and reach a very large audience, and maybe just overnight, over a very short period, raise the funds.
Yeah, that can make all the difference.
Yeah. You have 3 hands that might have questions or comments about this. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, if all were to go well, what would be the timeline? Do you think the quickest?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. So it would probably be like 6 to 8 months. So like next summer that this hearing would actually happen, because there are various filing deadlines. There's the one that I mentioned coming up in a couple of weeks. Then there's like 2 months until Matt has to file his grounds or his case. and then the attorney general has something like 2 months or maybe just a month to respond. I'm not sure exactly how long, but the way that it works out is that it'll be the earliest it could be is like next May, anywhere from like May to August, July or August. Maybe July is the most likely.
That would be like perfect timing for the
Yeah.
25th anniversary. Any chance it could, let's say it starts around that time, any chance it would wrap up in time for the anniversary? Or are we looking at like months and months and months?
I don't know how long the Supreme Court takes to decide, but like the decision process usually goes a little faster than like the build up to the hearing. We saw a decision with the High Court within like 2 weeks of the hearing that Matt had in late June. So I think if the case were heard in, say, July, I think there's a good chance that there would be a decision by September.
Interesting.
Good question. Magnus?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Great to see you, Ted. Great work. I was wondering, can you do the same thing as you did last Christmas? Send funding on the email so we can give support to Matt Campbell. And one more thing. The Campbell case over there is very great, and we have to keep up the great work there. I forgot this. I forgot the second thing I was about to come up with, but it's important that you're sending an email when the funding is up there. Thank you, Ted, for being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Magnus. Yeah, so we'll do, as I said, I think very soon be launching a fundraiser on Crowdfunder. So the funds go directly to Matt and his family, and it's a lot of, it's a lot of money. We're not going to raise it all at once, but that'll be going within the next couple of weeks. Maybe it'll be sort of a year-end thing, and I mean, it's just falling at the end of the year anyway. So yeah, we will get that word out. So thank you, Magnus. Thank you for your generous support.
Great, Ted. Are you optimistic? Is it? Do you think it's? It's great stuff here now.
I'm pretty optimistic, but I'm always optimistic. So take it for a grain of salt.
If I could interject, it's the holiday season and everybody's spending all kinds of families. After the first of the year, go after some funding. I wouldn't try it before then. My opinion.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but the end of the year actually tends to be the best time for nonprofits and so on to raise money because people are like in a giving spirit. So for some people, it might be better in January. For some people, maybe they prefer at the end of the year.
I would say January is not a good time because that's when the credit card bills actually come in with the Christmas spree. And that's when people are, all right, time to buckle down, get on that diet, stop buying stuff, yeah. So I think, maybe the Christmas spirit will go further in December.
All right. Jerry.
You never know. Just put it out there.
Yeah.
Jerry from Scotland.
Yeah, I think hopefully you can hear me. I've not tried this mic out. I think that I'm surprised actually that they've taken this case as a kind of test case to see whether that can be, whether they can be questioned or not, because I'm glad they have, and I think even at this point that it's a victory. At this point, if for no other reason, the amount of publicity and attention that this can garner for Matt Campbell, the amount of publicity there, and certainly as soon as you start mentioning these courts in the UK, that gets people's attention, and it gets people's attention at an appropriate level, not just the attention of people like yourselves and activists and researchers and things. It gets the attention of the judiciary, and I think that is very important. The way that it's been presented up until now it's not really much to do with the technicalities of what happened on the day and what the objection is, but the opportunity to get that level of evidence in front of these people is not something that I thought the judiciary in the United Kingdom, particularly England, because you're dealing with the English legal system here, I didn't think they would hand him that opportunity, and they have, and that is a testament to his tenacity and to yours, Ted. Well done.
Thanks, Jerry.
Very good. Thanks, Jerry. The next story. The IC actually did a pretty good breakdown of this. Kristen Breitweiser, she was part of the interview process for the 9/11 files with Tucker Carlson. She made a couple cameos in there, but now he interviewed her for, I think it was a good hour and a half. Let's see here. Hour and 48 minutes talking to one of the Jersey girls, Kristen Breitweiser. Ted and the IC did a breakdown on it. I have not been able, we watched like the first half hour trying to get into the house, but I can't speak on it yet. Ted, I don't know if you could politely give a quick overview of what your takeaway was from it, or anybody else that watched it.
I'm
there we go.
I'm happy to hand it off to other people to chime in, but I thought it was a very interesting interview. It was very encouraging to see Tucker doing an interview about 9/11 so soon after his series, rather than just kind of hiding away and waiting 6 months or a year or whatever to do something about 9/11. It was surprising because Kristen Breitweiser, has sort of generally been known as the most conservative of the Jersey girls, the one who was least inclined to question to consider the possibility of official complicity in the events, who seemed to, sort of chalk it up to incompetence or what have you. And that came out in the series, in Tucker's series. She was interviewed in particular, I think, in episode 2, because that was the episode about the commission. And, that's kind of how it was framed. Of course, there was only sound bites from her, when you add it all up. So here we got to hear from her for a full hour and a half. And in my mind, she kind of really opened up about her, like the full range of her doubts about the official account. And so some very interesting things about how, and I remember Kurt Weldon telling me this, that he felt that the families, because I think we've all been like, why are the families only focusing on Saudi Arabia, in their lawsuit? And she kind of talked in a very interesting way about how they were corralled into just focusing on Saudi Arabia and not going after other foreign governments or, the U.S. intelligence apparatus or what have you. And she also, she really questioned several aspects of the aviation story, of the hijackings and the flying of the airplanes. She did question the crash sites of Flight 93 and Flight 77. She also, Tucker asked her about Building 7, and, she said she really doesn't know much about it, but she totally supports, it looks very fishy, and she supports investigating that as well. She had this silly idea about explosives being placed in the couches or something like that. Don't know what to make of that, but it was very interesting. And then, I paid less attention to the last half an hour or so, but it's where she was talking about the Victims Compensation Fund and like how that was being kind of raided by hedge funds or something like that. But very interesting interview. And I think it like really just cements how much people are questioning all aspects of the story. And they're really moving on from this kind of silly idea that, that Saudi Arabia would have acted on its own, supporting the hijackers without it, being part of a larger conspiracy involving other countries like Israel and the US. So,
yeah. Well, it's always, I mean, she came off extremely balanced and totally not overly over the top, dramatic or emotional or anything. Like, she was very factual and humble. She even said when he asked, she said, I at first she said, I watched the documentary series. She goes, no, actually I listened to it because I don't like to see myself on video, which is kind of cute. But people like her help us make a case with Tucker, because when he sees that there are legitimate people who are just questioning those things for all the right reasons without making a spectacle out of it, this helps further the cause with people like him, I find. The thing about the couches, I thought it was strange too, and so did he. He says, like, that just seemed like a very random thing to say. So just like, and it is extremely random, which made me think, you don't just make that up as an example. Like, why? So it just made me wonder if, not necessarily if it was true, but if someone had, kind of like made her believe that or had information, because she didn't really explain where that came from. It sounded like she was holding something back. So I'd be curious to know where that came from. But whatever we did see was, yeah, she's great.
Here I have the clip of that just real quick. We could show it before I go to the hands. As soon as I get through the ad, 1 second. Here we go.
I think that there needs to be some questions to special ops as to whether or not, as way of fact, that any bombs were planted in the couches of that building.
The couches?
The couches.
What does that mean? A couch like you sit on a couch?
Yeah.
Why do you say couches?
Listen, over the years, we've had people that came and approached us and tried to give us information, all kinds of different people.
I bet.
And I think that one of the things that needs to be examined is Building 7. I think that hard questions need to be asked as to how and why that building fell.
Why do you say couches?
I just happen to wonder if bombs were planted in the couches by special ops.
You happen to wonder. I mean, that's not something you would arrive at just sort of randomly. The couches. Everyone talks about the columns and the fireproofing, but you're saying so. Obviously.
I don't know. I mean, listen, like I said, we had a lot of people approach us. We had air traffic controller people in the beginning.
Richard, did you go after Kristen Breitweiser about explosives and couches? No.
I'm not responsible.
Okay.
That was really weird.
It was. We'll find out what that is all about, hopefully sometime. I'll go to Roy and Stu.
Yeah, I don't think people are questioning all aspects of 9/11 if they're still talking about hijackers and hijackings and passenger airliners flying into buildings and so forth. I was kind of disturbed to hear Ted just talking about the hijackers. I watched like the first couple of minutes of this interview, and I turned it off because she was talking about hijackers and terrorists, and it sounded like the same incompetence and CIA goofing up and what Carlson was doing in his series and everything. I don't see any progression in anybody's consciousness on this, particularly this hijacker terrorist airliner business.
Okay, well, to answer that, I think there is some cognitive dissonance going on in her, perhaps in her, because, well, first of all, she does say very clearly pretty early on that she's questioning, whether there was an intention to either orchestrate 9/11 or allow it to happen or whatever in order to, provide a pretext for war. There's sort of this sort of ambiguous, which Carlson's series does as well. Is it incompetence? Is it lie-hop? Is it like soft my-hop? Whatever. But if you had watched to the second third of the episode, you would see that she is questioning the hijacking story. It doesn't make sense to her that so-called hijackers would be able to take over the planes, would be able to navigate them to Washington, D.C. or New York, and would be able to fly them into the targets. So she is questioning basically that entire string of events. In particular,
that's good. Thanks. Great.
Yeah.
I would also like to add that Kurt Weldon, also, he talks about the hijackers often as well, but I asked him explicitly, when you mention all these hijackers, is it that, if there was no hijacker story, they have no, let me start over. His contention was that if we had got this information out earlier, we might have been able to prevent 9/11, which we all kind of find like, oh, come on, like that's ridiculous. But if you eliminate the hijacker story, they have no story to get the buildings to fall down. Like they needed a hijacker story, whether they were on the planes or not, or whether there were actually people. Like they needed the story at least. So that's all. Sue.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ted that she seemed torn to me. Some of the things she said were contradictory in terms of the official story and questioning the official story. But I did find what she revealed about the victim compensation fund quite shocking. Not just the regular 9/11 victim compensation fund, but the whole new thing I never knew about was this Iran fund that they use as a slush fund for the for bridge renovation and stuff like that. That's supposed to be for victims. That was, first of all, that it was funded by Iran. What? And secondly, that they use it as a slush fund. So it just kind of seems like the whole handling in the U.S. government is, sort of like a mob scene. Mobsters handling this, and any old which way they want. So I found it compelling. Listening to her, I think she's a very intelligent woman. The couch thing was like, whoa, out in left field. But other than that, I think it was quite, it's worth a listen. Definitely worth a listen.
Great. I can't wait to finish watching it now that we're done. Well, we're living out of boxes, but yeah. Thanks, Sue. Go to Chuck.
Yeah, just 2 points. A question: why families don't sue Dick Cheney or other officials, Michael Chertoff, for crimes against the country. And then 2, that remark about the couches only muddies the truth and throws in as you say, a left field remark, which makes her kind of suspect in terms of being an authentic truth seeker versus being a controlled op. So that's my thought.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. Go to Craig.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about that. I mean, I haven't had a chance to watch this whole interview yet. I only know what I saw in the 5-part series. And I guess I just want to say that, that I don't think that it's necessarily true that any kind of exposure is automatically positive. If you have exposure that pushes people in, that reinforces like key elements of the official story, like hijackers and terrorists and the whole deal, and incompetence, or these different elements, it can push people. People might think that questioning 9/11 means questioning the incompetence of the U.S. government. And so I'm not saying that there aren't positives, but I think we should consider the possibility that some exposure might actually not be helpful if it pushes people in the wrong direction. And honestly, that remark about the couches, to me, that just about blew her whole credibility in one phrase. I mean, I don't know what the point of saying that was, but it didn't help. I mean, if you're a casual person watching this and you don't know anything about 9/11, and you're very ready to dismiss the conspiracy theorists, and you hear her say that they put bombs in couches, I think you're going to find a much easier time dismissing the rest of what she's saying. So I just want to reinforce the idea that not every mention of 9/11 to a large audience is automatically a win for us. There are mentions that might seem like they're better than nothing, but can actually nudge people in the completely wrong direction, would be my view.
Thanks, Greg. She is a lawyer by trade. She is heavily involved. She was part of getting the family steering committee. I can't see her as a controlled opposition. And mentioning couches, it's not like she mentioned some other fringe theories that I won't mention, but
well, that's a pretty fringe one.
Yeah.
I mean, how many couches were in the, how many,
kind of. She did mention explosives. Like, it's the first time I ever heard a Jersey widow mention explosives in the towers.
Yeah,
and Building 7. She mentioned Building 7.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, it is so random that it had to have come from a really specific person with a specific story and maybe specific credibility. And why she chose that item to bring it up, I don't know. But she obviously felt that it was worth mentioning. So does that make it right? I think she brought it up sincerely.
Maybe we should be looking at furniture. Oh, furniture moving companies. Dum-dum-dum. Anyway, let's go on. Mike Cook.
I gotta go. I got an early Thanksgiving tonight. I want to recommend this to you guys. My stepdad was from Sweden, and this is pickled herring in white wine sauce. It's a Swedish delicacy that they have around this time of year. So love you guys. See you next time.
Right on. Thanks,
And
Mike.
you bet. Talk to you later.
See ya. Ellie.
Yeah, I guess I'll just try and keep it focused on this couches thing. So, I think given wherever we started on this journey, a lot of the things people said probably sounded crazy, but then you have to start putting the pieces together to see if there's a real story there. So I think this couches stick claim is actually could be missing some key context, especially for those who have, I think, have studied this 9/11 catastrophe for a long time. So first of all, we know she didn't just say couches. She said special ops putting bombs in the couches. Where would she have gotten that information from? Was there anything we can link that to based on our own connecting the dots? Well, first of all, we know we have 3 different sources that have told us that there were paramilitary armed paramilitary at Building 7 after the towers came down, blocking first responders from exiting the building. Patrick Dillon, first responder. We have Captain Patterson, firefighter. We have Sergeant Bilicki, NYPD, have all said the same thing. So we know that there were some sort of special forces inside the building on that day. Number 2, we also know that, or we have reason to believe that there were people that were killed inside the building before the building came down. We know that Barry Jennings talked about stepping over people. We also have heard other statements that seem to imply that not everyone survived and was evacuated from that building. And thirdly, and so based on those things, I mean, thirdly, we still don't even know the real answer to the question: why did they even bring down the building? We know there has been suspicion that fires were started on the floors of the building, not by the towers coming down, but by some third party, because the fires took a while to start after the buildings came down. So there's some question about what the origin of the fires was. And again, if you go back to that question, why did they bring down the building? Was it just to eliminate documents? Or we should ask the question, was it also to eliminate individuals? And if you're going to eliminate individuals, you're not going to be putting charges on core columns only. You're also going to be putting charges on those areas where those individuals congregate. So this is why I say, don't just say, oh, she's crazy or she's discrediting herself, but ask yourself deeper questions about what she might be alluding to. If you have a connection with her, try and utilize that connection to get more information, and use the rest of your own understanding about what happened that day and all the open questions, and see if that could fit and tie some of the dots together. I think that's a better pathway to trying to get better understanding of what really happened that day. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Ellie, and I want to add to that. At first, I was joking about this, but the dancing Israelis were pulled over. They were part of urban moving systems, moving furniture. In a 2015 FOIA request by John Masseria, they found material fabric with explosive residue that tested positive. So if you maybe there were a few key placed in congregation, not that they had couches throughout the entire World Trade Center, but key areas, maybe, I don't know. No, there's something there. But I like your method, trying to just ask more questions. Let's go to Carl.
Yes. Well, Barry Jennings did say that there had been explosions in the building, I think even when he was in the building. And I've long said that maybe there was a botched demolition earlier in the morning. Maybe the building was meant to come down in the dust clouds of 1 and 2. And hence, my thought that when I was sifting for, quote, computer components, the mission really may have been to recover undestroyed demolition electronics from the earlier explosion. But I have a follow-up point to this. Just want to clarify, Gene, have you finished what you consider 9/11 related news already?
Yeah, I think we're at the round table now. Yes.
Okay. I personally feel it was news that I was interviewed by Phil Turney, president of the USS Liberty Survivors Association, and I put the links in the chat to that. Among things I was able to mention and discuss was that Ron Johnson has gone on a few podcasts, and he mentioned I personally discussed with him near an exit to the building the day we first met, June 2nd, that I was assigned to sift the finer rubble of number 7 up at the landfill. But what he hasn't mentioned, and what would be most important for him to mention if he really wants to get to the truth, is I told him, actually, before I even mentioned my sifting assignment, I said, Ron, if you want more people to come forward, you need to have Congress pass a resolution or a law that removes any concern about non-disclosure agreements. Because when I left the government, I was compelled to sign a non-disclosure agreement or they wouldn't process my paperwork. So I'm getting very, very close to considering an in-depth video of Senator Ron Johnson and revelation of the method, because of course in both his Brett Weinstein and James Corbett interviews, he pretended essentially that he didn't know how to get in touch with me, even though I'd been interviewed 6 weeks earlier by his permanent subcommittee on investigations. And he doesn't say to the world, hey, if you're worried about non-disclosure agreement and you were involved in 9/11, come on forward. Congress will protect you. We want to figure out what's true. Instead, on Brett Weinstein, Senator Johnson says basically, well, just we may not really want to know the truth. And really, the whole technique is just get us past these key dates like the 25th anniversary, and then more people die and nobody remembers. So I have a challenge to specifically Ted Walter and Richard Gage that I think the strategy for beyond 9/11 truth is nobody agrees to speak in hearings by Senator Johnson before Senator Johnson hears from the USS Liberty survivors, because they're the true witnesses of false flag terrorism involving the highest levels of the US government and Mossad, Israel, IDF. And there's a parallel to 9/11 as well as historical events like JFK's assassination. And there needs to be a truth unified front that, I know some in the 9/11 quote truth movement want to jump in line, but these guys who were on the Liberty are real live witnesses. They're in their late 70s, early 80s. They're about to die. And now is the moment to step back and let them have the stage in hearings about false flag terrorism, which is what Ron Johnson needs to hold.
Thank you, Carl. Just one small correction. He didn't say that we don't want the truth. He said we might not be able to get the truth.
No, he said we may not want to know. He says that.
He did say that. But I think the tone was a little bit different, meaning we really need to know, but you guys aren't really ready for it.
Oh.
But keep pushing.
Our lives would change dramatically because Israel, those who own us might move on to the next the next power in earthly affairs.
Good point.
That's fair.
Thank you for the clarification, guys. I do have more news, but I want to get through the hands. So a couple more items. Let's go to Jetty.
Yeah, the couches thing, it's too ridiculous not to address, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, there's no way that this lady came up with that herself. Whether it's disinformation, whether it's she's been fed something, whatever. She did not come up with that concept herself. When I looked at a lot of the drawings, one of the things I looked at was renovations, and I was looking for the North Tower in particular, but Building 7 underwent a huge amount of renovations around about the 23rd floor when they upgraded it to become the Office of Emergency Management. And that wasn't that long before 9/11 happened. And by the way, Ted, if you and the elevator thing's quite interesting, but that's another thing. On the couches, it's not the worst way to get something into a building under the cover of a refurbishment of some kind. We look at elevator refurbishments in the North Tower, and nobody laughs at us and says, well, that's stupid. Because what does it do? It gives you access to the columns, it gives you everything. And I even thought it's somebody written out columns and it looks like couches, and it doesn't. But I think there's something in that, and I think she's saying that for a reason. And I don't tend to think that this is a disinformation artist there that we're dealing with. I think she says that for a very, very good reason. And I think there's more to it. And I think the whole moving system thing, urban moving systems, for example, is a very, very, it would be a very, very subtle way to say that, because she's certainly not going to say something that's going to put her in the crosshairs. So it's too ridiculous not to comment on, and it's too ridiculous to ignore, and it's too ridiculous to have been said without having good reason, in my opinion.
Thank you. Good comment. Thank you. John Olson.
Okay, good. Yeah, rather than glibly dismissing what she said about couches and Building 7, suppose she said, instead of using the word bombs, she said incendiary devices. That would have made a lot more sense. And I respond to Craig on that one, because it's something caused fires inside Building 7. And what was it? And if it may well have been pre-placed explosives, or incendiary devices is the word I use. And that could have provided the excuse for, we had to bring the building down because there was fires, which of course is a very flimsy excuse, but at least it's the one that they use in that case. So I want you to consider that and not be too glib in dismissing her comment.
Just to interject quickly, I imagine CIA may have even used thermitic devices to destroy documents within their document safes, which could have been the source of fires.
Ted?
Well, it's hard for me to, it's been a while because I wanted to respond sort of to what Craig said. And I appreciate where Craig is coming from, that there's definitely things that can be counterproductive when they might be done in the guise of, or in wanting to interpret them as being positive for the cause. I will say in this case, having watched the whole, at least, the whole hour and a half or whatever, like it's, maybe the criticism on this interview is that, if that's where they were both kind of willing to go, the fact that it took them maybe a third of the interview to really get into stuff that was seriously questioning the official account on several levels. Although again, from the get-go, she was pretty clear early on that she was seriously wondering if 9/11 was done to serve as a pretext for war. But then she kind of gets into her default thing of, talking about the alleged hijackers sort of as if they were the ones that pulled it off. But then clearly by like the middle of the interview, like the questions that she's asking are totally incompatible with the idea that the alleged hijackers actually perpetrated the attacks. And so I think, people like her, I think we have to be patient, because I think people all over the world who are going to be coming to this issue now are going to be like working out, are going to be kind of holding several, conflicting ideas in their mind. If they haven't totally let go of one idea and they're in the process of getting more comfortable with another idea, people are going to believe contradictory things. And it's going to take them a while to get to, say, like the full realization, the full understanding that those of us who've been studying this for much longer, or who have a more skeptical worldview, naturally have. So I think we have to be patient. I think, Craig, if you watch that middle of the interview, like there's definitely a lot of, she in the end is like, the questions she's asking are totally incompatible with like hijackers actually, hijacking the planes and, flying them into buildings and so on. And I think just in a broader sense, like that we need to be on guard for things that are counterproductive, but we also need to like not have such like strict purity tests about whether somebody is like good or bad, or we think they're good or bad, or because like I think key to like growing as a movement is like going to be welcoming in these people who are much earlier in their learning curve. And particularly people like Tucker, particularly people like high profile 9/11 family members. I just, I think that we need to not operate with like purity tests, and and be supportive and try to work with them, make them want to work with us, So
thanks, Ted. We'll go to Craig. Thank you. Craig.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think I feel that I'm applying a purity test. I don't think I'm looking for purity. I was just raising the concern that if the increased awareness pushes people towards more of the official story, it's not an automatic win just because somebody's mentioning 9/11 on a podcast. That's more what I meant. I'm not, and I do maybe differentiate a little bit between somebody that's just learning all this stuff for the first time and somebody who's been around it for a couple of decades. So, like in the case of the couches, I'm kind of a little bit amazed that people are giving this so much. They're so reluctant to kind of criticize that. I mean, even if she was told something, um, you know, I would have thought that it would have been good judgment to either to offer more substance to back it up, or just not to mention it, rather than to throw it out and have it seem kind of comical. Because the idea that special ops were involved is now kind of, people watching that interview, associate that with bombs being hidden in couches being delivered into the building. So I just think that was not the greatest move on her part. So I don't think that's glib. I like to respond to John. I don't think it's glib to point out that that's not really a helpful thing for her to mention. But anyway, I mean, she's free to speak her own mind. She's not required to follow any kind of party line or anything. But so it's not. I just to reiterate, it's not, for me. It's not about purity. It's about whether getting the attention is used to push people away from the truth, or whether it's hopefully gives them the opportunity to find more of the truth. And I just think that it's not always clear. Sometimes the idea, reinforcing the idea of Al-Qaeda terrorists attacking the U.S., it's not necessarily good attention if that idea is being reinforced in the average person's mind. So it's just a concern, really.
Well, you'll be happy to know that she doesn't think that a plane could have hit the Pentagon. So,
oh, good for her. She's my favorite now.
I hope that's consoling to you.
It's better than the alternative.
You got me more about this now. The urban moving system plausibility theory that I've now kicked. The bomb sniffing dogs. This is from Massimo Mazzucco's new Pearl Harbor movie documentary. Dogs were removed on the 6th. And urban moving systems was pulled over with residue in their vans. There's just more stuff. I'm now going to be going down this rabbit hole. But anyways.
Yeah, but those bomb sniffing dogs would have smelled them no matter where they were, right?
No, they were pulled in the 6th. So if you move couches 7th, 8th, 9th.
If that's when that happened.
That was when the power down happened over the weekend. There's just all kinds of more questions. Anyways. Yeah. All right, let's go to Barbara.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, because I've got earplugs in for the first time. Yeah, I just want to remind, I agree that Kristen Breitweiser has actually come quite a long ways. I just want to remind everybody, if you don't already know, for those who don't already know, for those of us who go way back, when Cynthia McKinney held her not just one, but 2 hearings on 9/11 truth in, an official congressional large room with chandeliers and all of that, 2 whole day-long hearings. The first one, she had invited the Jersey Girls, amongst many other people. She had invited the Jersey Girls and David Ray Griffin. And the Jersey Girls, I don't know who the spokesperson was, but of course, Kristen Breitweiser is basically the lead. because she was the attorney of the group of four. They let Cynthia McKinney know, and Cynthia told me this over dinner in Rome, by the way, and New York, that the Jersey Girls let Cynthia McKinney know that if David Ray Griffin spoke, that they wouldn't come. And so Cynthia McKinney, and the reason was that David Ray Griffin, even at that point, was open to an inside job. And so Cynthia McKinney had to divide them and held two hearings with David Ray Griffin as featured in the second one. So just even to do this interview, she's come quite a long ways. So I agree. I agree with Ted. We need to encourage the movement forward. That's it.
Thanks, Barb. John Olson?
Okay, real quick, again, responding to Craig. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on the idea of saying it might not have been a good idea for her to bring up the couch's issue in the debate with Tucker. I think you've got a valid point. My point is there may be some validity to that claim if we use the phrase incendiary devices rather than bombs, because something started the fires in Building 7. Do we know? And the question is, if we want the truth, that might be an avenue to pursue, and we shouldn't dismiss it. But I think you're right about it being not the most wise thing to say in the interview. So I'll keep it short and on to the next.
Thank you, John. Got a Richard?
I was in agreement with John and Ellie on this. They had to ensure that there were fires in 7, and probably they wanted to ensure that they were around column 79 for a long time, and probably on the 12th floor where their initiation of collapse theory occurs. So I don't think it's plausible whatsoever that the couches had explosives in them to take out columns. That's ludicrous. But they would make a hell of a fire, and a sustained fire, and they certainly couldn't guarantee that fires would have spread from the damaged area on the southwest corner of the building, which wasn't even on the 12th floor. I don't think the damage, maybe it was, but so they had to make sure that those fires got over to the northeast side, I think, to make their collapse initiation theory plausible, which they probably had figured out before setting explosives in the building. So yeah, so maybe there was an op that gave inside information to Kristen Breitweiser about couches. Maybe they did have incendiaries in them. That's becoming more and more plausible to me.
Richard, who are the occupants of the floors where the fires happened?
The 12th and 13th floor was the Securities and Exchange Commission. I don't know if they ordered new couches or not before 9/11. That's a good question.
Any other floors with fires?
Well, yeah, there were several floors with fires. I don't know who the tenants were on the other floors that had fires. The 7th and 8th floor had big fires.
That would just seem crucial information, especially as I mentioned, if CIA has document safes or computers that, yeah, I'm sure they have a protocol that they use some sort of devices to destroy the equipment or the documents when they have to vacate anywhere in the world. And they may very well be something that will burn even if immersed in water, something like a thermite grenade, let's say, or thermitic devices of some kind.
Yeah.
If we learned that urban moving systems moved couches, that would be
Yep, that'd be huge.
pretty incredible.
Yep.
In 7th and 8th, I mean, in building 7, yeah.
We got 2 more hands, and I got to get back to the last bit of news. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Richard was talking about, I always wondered why there were so many random windows that showed fire, and having couches go off would make perfect sense to me, and why they were there to begin with. to simulate, the building, using it as an excuse for coming down. But I mean, they were so many different floors that had these sort of odd fires going on, but there's no coordination with the fire. Anyway, just that's what was going on in my head.
Any government offices acquire their couches through the General Services Administration?
What's going on here? But after everybody talks, you're chiming in, each person this, please. Let's go to Chuck.
Yeah, I'll be brief. After talking with you guys and thinking about her, I remarked in the chat that her remark is cryptic. And so it's intended to generate the kind of conversation that's happening right here. So, and I think we agree that Tucker Carlson is, I think the word is expanding the Overton window. Overton window is what we can talk about. Is that correct? So she's say we can talk about building 7 coming down. Now we can also talk about couches, whatever the hell that means. But here's my point. The fact that the Jersey girls refused to testify alongside David Ray Griffin, the most virtuous truther, makes them suspect in my book.
Well, that was back in the day, early on.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're staying with your...
Let me finish my statement before you interrupt me. What I was going to say was that since then, they have been working out, reaching. Ted has made contact with Lori Van Auken, and there is a letter on AE 911's Truth site where they showed full support of AE 911 Truth. So take all that into account. Anyways, Carl, and then I'm going back to the news.
Yeah, it is interesting how couches all of a sudden are a topic of conversation, which is sort of absurd. I mean, Barry Jennings said there had been explosives that even destroyed a stairway that he was in. So couches, almost every entity in that building, I think, I'm amazed that Richard or others don't know what entities occupied the floors where the fires occurred. Presumably, they're all government entities. And believe me, any government entity, the only place they can buy couches from is from a General Services Administration approved contractor. And Urban Moving Systems is not going to be delivering couches from a GSA supplier. No, that's just ridiculous.
All right. And thank you, Carl. Here is, if anybody wants to look it up, it's on AE 911 Truth's website. Jersey girls applaud efforts of architects and engineers for 911 Truth. I don't know. This article was written in 2010, but I don't know when the letter was written. But we must applaud Mr. Richard Gate and his colleagues at AE 911 Truth for their tenacity in seeking answers to lingering questions concerning the total destruction of the World Trade Center complex, in particular buildings 1, 2, and 7. So here they were showing support. So I got to get my timeline right on when they had odds with David Ray Griffin, since Richard Gage came from hearing about David Ray Griffin on the Guns and Butter with Bonnie Faulkner. So I would think that was early years when things were really rowdy, and they were probably like, hold up, we got a lot of stuff coming at us right now.
It was very early, like 2005, as I recall.
So I think they're coming around very cautiously and slowly. That's my opinion. But
and that letter was written just days before we published this on the website.
Okay, so about 2010. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Last news story I had was about the firefighters from 911 Truth. Captain Raul Angulo and Eric Lawyer were on a second episode of Badge of Honor with, I forgot her name. It's on here, right? There it is. Sam Horowitz and John Salerno. I caught about half of it. Again, Raul is getting more and more comfortable with speaking about the buildings 1, 2, and 7. He even brought out visual aids. Where's his visual aids? You got to see this. He brought up even a hammer and nail showing about impact, and this top fourth of the building can't fall through the other 3/4 of the building. He talks about moment and impact and momentum, and it's just fantastic. He's getting more comfortable with it. So hats off to Raul and Eric for doing that. It's raising awareness in other circles of influence. So thanks for Sam and John doing that. I'll put the link in the show notes. Badge of Honor TV. And that is all I had for the news. And we basically,
Well, no, Boston.
yeah, the Boston call. Who's coming up?
Well, they had Bob, I think, last Thursday. We just couldn't.
Sorry, Bob. We were in the middle of getting here. So we didn't make that one. I don't know if anybody wants to give a recap. Bob,
Susan, Al.
or Sue, Al. Anybody?
Unless I made a mistake and it's this upcoming Thursday, but
It's I didn't think I wasn't there, but according to Sue, I don't think he appeared at all. Where did you get
No,
that?
that was Dan Noel that didn't appear.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So this Tuesday we have Bob Runyon. Normally we have our meetings on Thursday, but of course that's Thanksgiving. So yeah, we didn't have a meeting last Thursday. It was supposed to be Dan Noel, but he had technical difficulties, so he's been rescheduled. And then on December 11th, we have Mark Rossini. If you all recall, he was in the first episode of Tucker Carlson's 9/11 series. And then January 8th, we have Richard Elifritz. And then January 22nd, we have Dan Noel. He's been rescheduled. And ta-da, we got February 5th, Sybil Edmonds.
Nice. When was Dan Noel back? Did you say February 2nd?
No, January 22nd.
January 22nd. All right. And Sybil Edmonds. Oh boy. Getting some biggies there.
Yeah. And somebody put in the chat that about Philip Torney. Been trying to contact him. I'm not sure where he stands on 9/11, but I think he would make a good speaker from the USS Liberty. Yeah, if someone can help me get in contact with him, that would be great.
So how did you get Sybil Edmonds? I was totally unaware of it.
Yeah, it's brand new information. Sorry, I
How
haven't.
did you find her?
Through her Patreon channel. I finally had to pay to subscribe to her Patreon channel, and decided it was worth it. So I was able to contact her through that.
Cool, very cool.
So just a recap there for Boston 9/11 Truth this Tuesday, which is not different, usually a different time, usually Thursday. This Tuesday, Bob Runyon, December 11th, Rossini, January 8th, Rich Elifitz, January 22nd, Dan Noel, and March.
February 5th.
Sybil Edmonds. And if you need an invite, email Sue. It's SUESERPA. That's SueSerpa@gmail.com. Thank you, Sue. Carl,
We're still working on that website.
okay.
Sue, did you say you want to have Phil Turney or USS Liberty survivors on?
Yes, I do.
Hi, is there a reason you wouldn't want to have me, one who sifted the rubble of number 7, on as well?
Well, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, Phil has cachet and all that because he's been on Candace Owens, etc. He's,
right.
You know, he's
All right, Carl, send her an email. I'm going to move on with the news.
You send
All right.
me an
Thank
email.
you. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I don't know who should. Carl, you interrupt me again. I'm going to boot you out of here today.
I have a comment directly relevant to Candace Owen and Sybil.
Okay.
Yeah, just really quick. I just sent Sandra I just got an email from Sybil Edmonds that sometime in the very imminent future this evening, she's going to be discussing what she thinks about Candace Owens. So if you want to forward it to the list.
Excellent. Anybody else have any?
Can I? Sorry. I just wanted to mention real quick, since you're talking about meetings, I wanted to throw in the 9/11 and other deep state crimes teleconference.
Going for
Just,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I figured it's on the topic. I might as well, do it at the same time. We're going to do our meeting because of Thanksgiving. We're going to do it a week later than we usually do it. So we're going to do it on the 3rd of December instead of next Wednesday. So the agenda has to go out. John Olson, who's on the call tonight, is going to be one of the speakers that night. So I don't know if John wants to mention what it's about, but I don't want to misdescribe it. If misdescribed is a real word. And I think we're going to have him on, and I think we've invited Paul Delorier, who's also, they're both will be on the subject of Hawaii, but I think Delorier kind of looks at the Lahaina fire, and he's talked about that. So hopefully, he will confirm, and then we'll have both of them sort of, both speakers will be talking about related subjects. So that's it. So that'll be the 3rd of December.
Thank you.
Greg, does it have to be the 3rd of December? We just announced our lawyers committee board meeting same time.
Well, it hasn't been sent out yet, so it's theoretically could be changed. We can talk about this.
Okay, and yours starts at what time? Eastern?
It starts at 8 Eastern, so I guess you're 5 Pacific.
Yeah. Well, ours 8 Eastern, and ours starts at 6 Eastern. So it could still work. We could still do both.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Magnus?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if we had time to see the video in the chat.
Yeah.
20 minutes, 20 seconds into the video.
Yeah, and you'll be happy to know that this new internet that we have is exceptionally fast. So I think we're good with videos not skipping anymore.
As long as my computer doesn't overheat. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it this video, Rick? The last one you sent, Magnus?
Yeah, the last one I sent, yes, 20 seconds into the video. I'm not sure if it is famous here from beforehand, but we have to watch it.
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you. I'm still watching you.
You're not sharing screen.
I'm not sharing a screen. I'm not. It looked great by myself here. Sorry, guys. Let's go back to 20 seconds. Here we go.
Looking at it.
So I think I'm seeing the outline of Building 7 here. Let's just play.
Been evacuated because police have found what they describe as a suspicious device, and they fear that it might be something that could lead to another explosion. Obviously, there's a real sense of caution here on the part of police. I spoke with some police officials.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the device. I never heard anything else about that in the future after that newscast. So this is very interesting that this device has been found and no words about them afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. And there was also another video of firefighters down at the base of World Trade Center 1 and 2 saying it was secondary device over here. We got secondary devices, and they're all yelling. So, yep. Thank you. All right. Any other events coming up? I know I saw Mike on the call. He's not here anymore.
Mike's here.
There you are. Or Chuck. You guys have.
Right. If Mike can remark about the tap platform. Mike, otherwise, Carl Schwarz is coming back onto a tap talk, and we'll be covering the history before 9/11.
Oh, all right. Is that a date set for that one yet?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's Tuesday night. This coming Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Truth Action Project. He flew over from Prague, Czech Republic, and he's in Toronto for about 3 weeks. And so we're going to be doing this one
Tuesday night, and probably another one. But he's going to be talking about what led up to 9/11, the bombings, the bombing in the 90s, and he's going to talk about the oil reserves in the Caspian Basin, and just a lot of things that people don't know about prior to 9/11 that he was researching. And it should be very interesting. 8 p.m.
And if anybody wants to get in that, if you go to truthactionproject.org, click on the events calendar, and click on that, fill out the form, and it'll send you the invite to the Zoom call. So thank you, Mike.
And I just wanted to quickly mention to Mike and Chuck, I had a conversation last week with Raul Angulo. I don't even remember how it came up, but it was talking about what you guys, the 9/11 curriculum in the schools and how to change what the kids are being taught and so on and so forth. And maybe I'm not very well versed on everything that you guys discussed. We missed most of it. I think I got the gist of it. But he had a really interesting take because he has published books. And he said, the problem is not what the schools are teaching in the sense of, them making those decisions. What happens is that the books that make it into the school system are sold to the school system by the publishers. So the publishers are the ones who send their, whatever they deem to be good educational material to the schools. And then at those meetings, the teachers will basically just glance through them. Yes, there's a check off all the boxes of what we want to teach. And then the school just makes a deal with these publishers. So from everything explained, the people you actually have to really get to is the publishers more than the school.
Yeah, Sandra, we're ahead of that.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
exactly what we're doing.
Okay, gotcha.
And we have been digging into this for quite some time, and the publishing companies are owned by the same people that we always like to talk about, the suspects in that little tiny country the size of New Jersey that has so much power over our government. These publishing companies are owned by those people. So
got it.
Those damn Luxembourgians. Anyway, just
Well, I have a relevant comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Barb.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of books by people like David Ray Griffin, and you can still buy them in bulk from the publisher. And it seems to be a lot faster to kind of lobby the schools to take the right books, at least as a complement to the ones they already have.
Well, the problem is the schools think they're teaching the truth because the government handed it to them. And the job first is to expose the lies that the schools are teaching the children. That's, the task number one. We must first confront them face to face that they are teaching lies.
Yeah, I'm not against, I agree with that. It's just you can kill two birds with one stone. I hate that slogan, but
well, they're not going to be interested in passing out books from David Ray Griffin or any others. They first must be confronted with the truth and forced to change their way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're not willing.
I know you believe that, but unless you try, it can't happen.
I've already been trying. I've actually convinced my local sheriff that Building 7 was an inside job. I have spoke to county commissioner that is also convinced that this is an inside job. So it involves getting out of your comfort zone of your home, going into the city council, the county commission meetings, facing them, developing relationships. And that's what it's going to take. We really need to change our way of thinking in the 9/11 truth movement. The politics is not a spectator sport. We must get in their face and confront them. It's just that simple. I yield.
Thank you, Mike.
I agree with you. I'm just trying to add that you can go into the and talk to the library.
You heard it the first time, Barb. Good. Thank you. Richard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we have Brett Weinstein interviewed me the other day. And that's going to be posted on his Dark Horse podcast website tomorrow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Epic.
Big thanks to Ellie for being persistent about that on X. We reached out to him via, well, actually, he reached out to us first as a result of his interview with
Richard?
Senator Johnson.
Just say the name again. Who it is you're talking about?
Brett Weinstein. And he
Okay, thanks.
he saw, well, he interviewed Johnson a couple of weeks ago, and Johnson mentioned our name a few times. So he sent me the link to that podcast. Said, I thought you'd be interested. And I said to him, well, I think you need to be backed up with real evidence, forensic scientific evidence and eyewitness testimony. And so does Johnson, Senator Johnson. So it was really the best interview that I've ever done.
Another one?
I keep surpassing myself. And he came back several times with these deep thoughts that he has about how solid this evidence is and how much it's ignored by official sources. And he puts it in a way that's really extraordinary. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with several people. Senator Johnson's heard it all. It's the exact same presentation I gave to him personally.
Well, it's nice. Weinstein does have a little bit of this philosophical, grand view way of looking at things and putting things in a context that's not your traditional way of thinking outside the box. And I have a lot of appreciation for his insights.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been interviewed by Rogan and Tucker Carlson several times. So we're trying to find an appropriate way without being too pushy to climb our way up the ladder.
Were you able to share your presentation with him, or how did that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sure did.
What's the name of its podcast again, Richard?
Dark Horse Podcast.
Dark Horse.
Carl?
Yes, a follow-up to Richard. Richard, since the interview of Senator Johnson by Brett Weinstein apparently was late August, and that's when they both agreed that I had just vanished, and oh well, you know, without as if wanting to bury my testimony by phone to the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. My references to the USS Liberty and other false flag events as evidentiary to 9/11. I don't suppose you would facilitate my contacting Brett Weinstein, even though he may very well, of course, not want to, allow me a follow-up, just to announce that I exist. I haven't been taken out by Mossad, although Brett and Senator Johnson, they commiserated about how, they're afraid and, they're not suicidal and blah, blah, blah. So would you facilitate my communicating with Brett just to offer him the chance that we might communicate?
I'll think about that.
Will you do it?
I'll think about it.
There we go. Anybody else have any news that they need to share before we go around the room? Then let's go around the room. Carl, anything for the group wrapping up?
Yes, I haven't heard from either Richard or Ted suggesting that, the truth movement is more than just 9/11. It goes back arguably to World War I. But certainly JFK and the Liberty event, the 6-Day War, it's all connected together. And most of us are afraid to talk about, what the connection is. So I would say to Richard and Ted, are you guys willing to, quote, take a number and let the USS Liberty survivors step in front of you at a hearing by Senator Johnson on false flag terrorism in general, as, sets the tone for the conversation that really needs to happen?
I think we are going to do false flag terrorism in general, and the Liberty would certainly be a part of that.
Well, I would be pleased to vanish into the background if just the Liberty survivors get to testify before Senator Johnson.
Well, this is about 9/11, so I don't know how
No,
much.
history is about more than just 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah, but if Johnson's doing a commission just on that, I mean, this is going to be his call on what he's leading.
Right, well, it gets back to the revelation of the method. He's an APAC funded senator who even discusses that, yeah, well, we get past the 25th anniversary and everyone forgets about it because, yeah, dad or grandfather who was part of 9/11, well, they died. And yeah, it's just all forgotten, just like the Liberty, just like JFK. No, the dots connect. And now is the moment for Senator Johnson to kind of do the right thing or be called out on it if he's not going to.
Oh, yeah.
In no place to tell Johnson what to do.
Brilliant, Strat.
I absolutely am.
Okay. Good luck with your avenue. Let's go to Al. Anything for the group? Wrapping up, Al?
Yeah, well, come to our Tuesday night meeting. Sorry to put the mix up because of the holiday. I just wanted to mention we sponsored, I've forgotten his first name, Perloff, the guy that did all the, he wrote the book about false flags.
James Perloff.
Yeah, that was the guy. And it's a very interesting, when he came, and I would recommend his book, but, you know, following up on Carl and what he was talking about other false flags, because there's a continuity in a lot of them. Anyway, I think that's it. And thank you, everybody. It was a great meeting.
Thank you, Al. If anybody wants to follow that, go to jamesperloff.net and you can look up what Al was talking about there. Let's go to Dave Schlesinger. Thing for the group, sir. I guess that's a no. You're muted. Nope, he's good. All right. Mike Zorzano. Anything for the group?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the situation with Carl Schwartz, you know, people need to realize that there were things going on long before 9/11 that led up to 9/11. And it's not necessarily involving Israel. And this is what Carl is going to get into in the deep dive on Tuesday night. And I think it'll be very surprising to most of you what he's going to share. And he's really the original frontier pioneer in 9/11. He was ahead of the game before anyone. And that's what makes him such an interesting guy. And I just want to also say that, you know, going forward, there's a new frontier in 9/11 too, and that's in the local school districts. 15 states are forcing propaganda for 9/11 to be taught to children to perpetuate the lie for years to come. And it is our job to inform these children and these teachers and these county and city school districts that they have been given lies to be propaganda tools. So this is a place, a new frontier for 9/11 truth that I think really needs to be explored. That's it. Thanks,
you. Mike. Look forward to that. I'm going to try to be there. Richard, anything for the group?
No.
Thank you. Yep. Bob?
Just a little tidbit about the USS Liberty business. I was in basic when the Liberty was hit, and then they assigned me to ship AGTR 4. The hull number for Liberty was AGTR 5. We were the identical twin to the Liberty, just floating around the Mediterranean with a target on her back.
Right on. Thank you, JB.
I'm good, thank you.
Craig? Thanks, JB. He's looking for the mute. I'll come back while you find that. Magnus, anything for the group?
Thank you, everybody, and keep up the great work and have a great week.
You too, Magnus. Thank you.
Craig, is that coming?
Oh, Craig, you back?
Yeah, I'm back, and all that to say, no, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ben or Benjamin.
Hi, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's crazy to be able to be in a call with Richard, with Jerry, with you. I was uh, involved back in the early 2000s. Then I took a huge break. I knew there was something there. I abandoned it. And then in this last year, I decided to revisit it, actually trying to be a debunker. And then everything was punching me in the face. Like, it was so much worse than I thought. It was crazy. So now I'm caught up. I appreciate all the work Richard and you, Gene and Sandra are doing. I mean, the task is so monumental, and it wasn't our job to have to do this. And the fact that you guys were still doing it, we're still trying to get the word out, trying to organize our information and get senators involved. It's heroic work, seriously. So I just want to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
And you're very well. I mean, I did note. So, we're getting on in age, and like sometimes I see a new face, and I'm like, "Oh, welcome to this new member that we've never had on before." And they're like, "Yeah, no, I joined a couple of times." So when I saw you, I'm like, "Was he here on this call before or not?" But we are always thrilled to have new people on because mostly we're a crowd of pretty much the same 20 that show up every week with some variations, also depending on what's going on out there with someone who might talk specifically on a subject. But so you have never been on this call, is what I'm understanding?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And can I ask, if you don't mind, what city you're in?
I'm in California, in the Central Valley. So, yeah, my job is a business analyst. So my whole job is taking complex technical arguments and trying to translate that into layman's speak for the business. So there's a lot of that with 9/11 when you talk about the building collapses. People have all kinds of crazy ideas and assumptions. And even just getting the basics, it's so much work.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like ground to cover to close that gap.
Okay.
If you mind me asking, when you said you were involved in the early years, roughly what time and who were you in?
It was late 2006, and I immediately started doing presentations. I was in college. I did about 3 or 4 presentations where I had like groups of 20 or 30 people, and every time there was just like a kind of a dreaded silence afterwards. I was like anticipating some back and forth, and everyone was just like, well, that's creepy.
They're trying to process it.
Well, fantastic. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, I'm not quite aware of the proportions of California, but the Northern California Truth Alliance. You aware of their?
I wasn't aware.
Okay.
Kathleen Rosen, or
no, Carol Bruyere.
Carol Bruyere, yeah.
Who's an absolutely fantastic lady who's been doing this also since pretty much those early years. You might. Well, also, I mean, first of all, actually, if you want to give me your email address, then I can include you in the weekly reminder for this call. And also, specifically, if you'd like to, and you don't have to, I would put you in touch with her because there's not a whole lot of people on the West Coast. It seems that we're mostly concentrated on the East. But we're also, with the 25th anniversary coming up, as we're trying to organize an event probably in New York City, similar to, I don't know if you followed the Washington event we had just this past September. So we're trying to do something along those lines. And Carol was asking if we could maybe have like a West Coast event that would parallel or mirror ours or run on the same theme. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it all out there because that's what I do.
Yeah, I know that I missed one that was at Berkeley, and Berkeley's within driving distance from me. And I know that there was a lot of, especially in the early days, a lot of movement in Berkeley.
Right. Well, Richard was, I don't know if it was Berkeley, but Richard was
San Francisco Valley.
San Francisco in those years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. If
you don't want to give your email over in front of everybody, you could email us, contact@911warroom.com, and send it to us, and we can put you in touch with some peeps.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, I dropped it in the chat. So
that's cool.
Okay, cool.
There we go.
So just stay connected.
Yeah.
And welcome, and thank you.
Did you go by Ben or Benjamin?
Benjamin.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Sue, anything for the group?
I forgot what I was going to say. I had it all lined up in my head. Now, hold on a moment.
That's why we start writing things down now before we forget.
Yeah. There you go. Cheat sheet. Um, yeah, I've just been working on house renovations, refinishing the bedroom floor and painting it and stuff like that. So it's busy. And oh, yeah, Mike, I looked up the Moore Healey call for 9/11 education in Massachusetts. And that was just a call. There's no formal 9/11 education in Massachusetts as of this moment. It was never legislated. So just to let you know about that.
Very good. Thank you, Sue. Roy?
Yes, I have something for the group again, as I did last week. It's kind of a joke. It's kind of funny. I'm glad Barbara is still on because what happened was that somebody said, are those screenshots, those squares with the colors of the sky, is that WT7 or the World Trade Center towers? And I said it was WTC7. And then after that, I didn't remember who had asked that, and I sort of misremembered, thinking that that person was actually interested in the towers in the sky in the video of the towers. So I went back that very evening, spent most of the evening doing the same thing I'd done with the World Trade Center 7 sky backdrop in the videos, and did the same thing with the 50 videos of the I guess that was the impact, the flight 175, the purported flight 175 impact. So I did that, all 50 of them, and I can show that real quick if you let me share my screen for a minute.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see, here we go. Share, okay. All right. Okay, this is the one from last week. This is WTC7. And so I did the same thing with the South Tower and WTC, the towers. And so there are 50 of these. There it is. There's less variation. Notice apparently less variation on the towers sky video skies than in the WT7.
Roy,
You,
I don't see your pictures.
yeah, you're showing a directory, not the.
Then I'm
notes.
I've got the wrong thing shared then. Hold on, I'll try it again. Let's try this. Okay, I've got a choice. Oh, here we go. This should be it. That should be it. That's it, right?
There you go. Now you got it. There we go.
Okay, there it is. Okay, this is the WTC 7, building 7, with very wide variation, quite wide variation. And this is the South Tower impact, alleged South Tower impact, with less variation. But there's one interesting thing about it. There is variation, and certainly the color settings were jiggered with for one reason or another. There could have been a legitimate reason, so some sort of, whatever, I don't know. But the question is, does anybody find a particular outlier among these 50 squares?
Well, this was the conversation. This is supposed to be like a 30-second wrap up. I don't want to open up another bottle.
Okay, well, Gene, let me just ask you, do you see one that seems to stand out a little bit?
Personally, I don't like this whole rabbit. I think you could take a picture of Oklahoma City bombing and come up with 50 different screen colors to the sky. But if you want to go down that rabbit, I go for it.
Well, if you think the video is all the videos are absolutely untouched and legitimate, and they all show the same thing. Oh, you can think that if you want.
There's just so much stronger evidence than colors of the skies in an event that you could, depends on where you're turning, depends on the time of day, depends on whose camera. It's just, I don't know. I don't mean to belittle it. It's just,
it isn't only the color of the sky. That's one thing. At any rate, the next to the bottom row, the seventh one from the left, that white one, the noticeably white one is the only video that was shown live on television. I find that interesting. But if you don't, that's okay too. Okay, that's it.
thank you. Their ISO setting could have been too high.
Seeing as I was mentioned, what does this have to do with me, Roy, Barbara?
It was that it turned out that you were the one who asked the question.
No, I don't think so.
No, it was you. I went back and watched the watched the thing on Rumble. It was definitely you. I didn't know, and then I got to that point. You were just
I
correcting.
don't think so. I have no recollection.
All right, we're done. We're done. Okay, next, Ellie. Anything for the group wrapping up?
Yeah. So, I do. Anyway, Candace Owens. So yeah, obviously she's like basically hit the zeitgeist right now. So apparently has the #1 podcast in the world. She's basically on everybody's lips right now, and for good reason. And then obviously there's a question of what is she really up to, or what does she really believe? But I obviously think overall she's a positive for exposing truth. But you'll never guess who actually liked one of our posts last week on 9/11. It was Candace
Really?
Owens.
No way.
Yeah. So if you go the one that's in the chat, I just put it in the chat maybe a few minutes ago. I basically did a montage of her and Tucker Carlson talking about 9/11, and I posted that up last week, and I got a notification that she actually liked that post.
All right.
I'd like to see it. How long is it? Oh, how long is it?
It's 3:40.
A couple minutes.
We'll wrap up with that one.
Yeah.
How about that.
Yeah.
So thank you, and I will look at that we're signing off here.
Could you repeat who liked what? I couldn't hear.
Candace Owens liked a post that Ellie made for the Richard Gage account on X.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Thank
That
you.
was cool.
We'll come back to that. Let's see if I got everybody.
Josh
Schoenfeld.
Hey, good evening. Earlier this week, Trump's statement dismissing the Saudi connection to 9/11 was very despicable, and I hope the victims' families that are suing Saudi Arabia come out in full force in opposition to what Trump said. And we all know Trump is a puppet of both Saudi Arabia and Israel, which I believe played very key roles in 9/11. And I just hope, just in general, the truth movement keeps persevering in exposing the certain things about official narratives that don't make sense. So thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Glad you're here. And yes, I think these people are persevering. Go to Chuck.
Oh, hey, peace out, everyone. Have a great week. Have a nice Thanksgiving. I'm just going to remark that 2 weeks ago, you shared that short clip from the researcher named Rupert, who basically said Cheney, in a conspiracy with the Secret Service, ran a deep state during 9/11. And, we can talk about the buildings till we're blue in the face. I think we need to up the game in the truth movement and start indicting with our rhetoric the individuals. We can say Israel did it, which makes us look stupid because you're not talking about Cheney, who was at the helm of the nation when it happened. Okay, Chuck out.
Thanks, Chuck. You have a happy Thanksgiving too, and we'll wish everyone that in a minute too. Let's go to Barb. Anything for the group wrapping up?
Yeah, just a few comments about what's been said. Carol Brûlé was mentioned. Yes, Carol Brûlé actually I guess the word would be produced the very first major conference, which was held at the large theater in San Francisco where the UN treaty was signed. And that was in, I believe, 2004. I was there. And she did a great job. And then I think the next year did the same thing. So yes, Carol Boulay has been doing this from the get-go. And as far as the USS Liberty, I do agree with Carl that it's very critical to include the USS Liberty in any coverage of the history of false flags. The best book that I know of on it is called Operation Cyanide. So that's it.
Barbara, more powerful yet is
Carl, go
testimony
ahead.
from the actual survivors.
Go ahead, Carl. It's your 30 seconds. Anything for the group?
Now, Barbara, just wanted to say, more powerful than referencing a book for, say, a Senate hearing is testimony of the actual survivors who are in their late 70s or early 80s. And now is the time for them to say what they only they know from an in-person perspective.
Thanks, Carl. Go to Jetty.
Yeah, on Candace Owens, that's getting interesting because serious people are now saying she's right about France and right about which country is using France to threaten her life. If I to Ellie, if I wanted to maybe garner more contact from Candace Owens, I would steer clear of the whole E-team art student thing, focus on urban moving systems, because she will know that the whole E-team thing is an Austrian art project, but and I did notice a focus on that. That's not a good place to look, frankly. But if you focus perhaps on the whole urban moving systems thing, I think that's a relationship you could potentially develop there, because if you look at who is really threatening her life, it's not really France. But it's a very interesting place, and she's in a very, very primed position to be able to use her followers and her reach just now, for sure.
Bye, Jetty. I love you. Anyway, Craig R. That's not Craig Ranke, is it? Craig R. Anything for the crew wrapping up? If you're there.
I think maybe the Craig who joins Richard's call on Mondays.
If you can come off mic. If not, I'll check back to see if you can. Ross, anything for the group?
Yeah, I just want to say I hope I'm being heard because of the connection, but be careful what you wish for. And what I mean by that is that, we always talk about, or a lot of people talk about in the movement about justice. I think I moved on from that as being the focus of the movement a couple of, after, the Supreme Court decision, the U.S. Supreme Court decision regarding 9/11, our case against them, for them to review. And the reason being is, it was good to set the precedents, but justice means, we all need to acknowledge, it means a firing squad in terms of 9/11. So that's never going to fly with the public. It never should fly, I don't believe. And I think we've done our work there. I think we need to move on. I think we will move on. It will be natural. And it has to be a positive desire for the 9/11 Truth movement to get some traction. It has to be desired. And so I think 9/11 Truth will be desired if you talk about, building the buildings again as part of that message. So let's do that. Let's stop this firing squad, beating around the bush. It's a firing squad. We don't want to be talking about that. And the schools might accept the truth. And then if there's a positive message to rebuild the buildings, all the better. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Go to Jack. All right. No Jack and no Craig. All right. Sandra, anything for the group?
No, happy Thanksgiving.
Whoops, sorry. Let's try it. There we go. Try it again.
Happy Thanksgiving
All right.
to everyone.
And on the what I wanted to share for the 9/11 curriculum idea, I forgot totally about the series Connor Boyack put out. It's called The Tuttle Twins Guide to, and they have a whole series of books. And I bought like 5 copies of this one because they have a little chapter. They're literally like 4 pages per chapter, and they talk about the USS Liberty and all kinds of things. And they just a light coverage of 9/11, but they went there. And this is great for kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's light because it's made for kids,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easy to read.
Yep.
And sometimes if you don't want to deal with some kind of hefty, in-depth volume of technical jargon, then read and you still learn something from it. So maybe not for 9/11, but some of the other stuff that you're not that familiar with.
And it looks like there's a sale. So if anybody was to buy these for their little ones that they know in the family, that'd be kind of a good one to check out. And lastly,
actually, my brother and I got that set from my grandson, and my daughter returned it.
What? No way. Oh my God.
Yeah, way.
And now we will go out with this clip.
Oh wait, David just raised his hand.
Oh, David, you go ahead, David.
Mentioning teachers, when I was trying to organize different work groups at AE, there are 1,500 teacher signatories on the AE petition.
Oh.
Just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. That's a good thing to know. All right. This is about 3 minutes and 48 seconds. It's a collage that Ellie put together that got Candace Owens to like it. You guys feel free to drop off if you like. We're just going to play this out. Here we go. And I forgot to click share. And now there we go.
You have sound.
Entered high school, and my older sister's boyfriend made me watch a documentary. It was called Loose Change. I will never forget it. Never, ever forget it. I came out of watching that documentary, which I think if you looked it up today, it would say conspiracy theories about 9/11. But irrespective of how they want to categorize it, at the very least, you came out of it recognizing that not everything was told to the public about that day.
We know that a group of Israeli art students, who clearly were not art students, clearly some of them were aligned with Israeli intelligence, were arrested and held for quite some time in the United States before being released without charges. And we know that a group of them, again, I'm quoting an FBI document here, not the internet, filmed the attacks on 9/11, and I'm quoting, seemed to have foreknowledge of those attacks.
And watch this clip from our trusted news source, CNN. Take a listen.
Another development on Saturday, New York officials revealed at a news conference here in the city that a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that. No other details were given, but the discovery prompted the FBI and police to expand the search area down in Lower Manhattan.
I like how even the newscaster says, if you can believe that, because nope, I refuse to believe that, and you should not either.
Somebody, a group of people, made massive bets against the airlines involved in the 9/11 attacks and against the banks housed in the buildings that fell. Okay, so that is proof. I think any normal person would say that's proof of foreknowledge.
Larry was quite lucky. He obtained the lease for the Twin Towers just 6 weeks prior to 9/11. 6 weeks prior. He obtained the lease, and he also took out an insurance policy, which fortunately included coverage for acts of terrorism. So when it came time to collect, when the towers went down, Silverstein claimed that there were 2 incidences of terror, since 2 buildings were hit by the planes, which allowed him to seek double indemnity. So to be clear, he collected $4.5 billion from insurance on the towers that he had invested in just 6 weeks prior to the 9/11 attacks. But by the way, Larry was even more lucky than that, unbelievably. Every morning, he used to have breakfast. He used to take breakfast meetings at the World Trade Center. But on the morning of 9/11, and by the way, this is according to Larry in interviews, he just broke his own routine. He, fortunately, on the morning of 9/11, had a dermatologist appointment. So he didn't take breakfast in the towers, and that spared his life.
What began to make me wonder, and I have no idea what happened on 9/11, but it's very clear that there's a lot of lying around it, was the collapse of Building 7. And all the wackos would be like, Building 7, Building 7. I'd be like, shut up, wackos. And then if you just sort of look at it, you're like, well, that is very weird, actually. No plane hit that building. And does this happen a lot when buildings catch fire? Right. Okay.
If we talk about it, we're We're instantly called conspiracy theorists. We're instantly called 9/11 truthers. We're instantly called anti-Semitic. And let me tell you, the only word for all of this, if you're not interested, if you don't find this to be remarkably suspicious, if you don't realize that we were not told everything about 9/11, the only word, the only adjective that should be launched on you is you're anti-American. And that's worst of all. I'd rather be called everything in the entire world than be called anti-American. And that's what these people in the media are. They're anti-American cowards. And you know what? I just won't play their game.
There it is. Nice job, Ellie. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to take care of some of the echo in this room, and have a good evening and a great week. We'll talk next time.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.